Hello class. Today we're going to go over our test review. Now if you can do everything on this test review, then you can do everything on the test. Okay, this is a pretty good idea on what the test will actually look like. So you're going to be covering several things on this test review. Read and write expressions, evaluate expressions for given values, evaluate expressions using a T-chart, and then graph coordinates from a T-chart. So let's talk about reading and writing. Okay, so the answers to this one, what you're looking for, it says here, 9 less than 4 times a number. Well, anytime you see a number, what I'm referring to is pick a letter. Okay, so that's going to be like an X or a Y or whatever you want it to be. Okay, so 9 less than 4 times a number. Well, 9 less means I'm going to be subtracting 9 from something. Well, what am I subtracting it from? 4 times a number. So that would be 4x. So the expression would be 4x minus 9. Okay, number 2. Anytime you see the word sum, or in number 3, the word difference, you're looking for an and, because this and is where that symbol is going to go. So sum means add, so that means I'm going to add right here. So what am I going to add? It says the sum of 5 and a number. So that would be 5 plus x. Number 3 says difference, so the difference means that we're going to be subtracting. Okay, and what I'm looking for again is the and that's where my minus sign is going to go. So this one says the difference of a number and 2 divided by 3, and there's a comma there. So that comma means that I've got to do the answer to that top part first before I do anything else. The difference also says that. So the difference of a number and 2, so that's x minus 2, all divided by, in parentheses, divided by 3. So 2 ways of doing parentheses here. You could either put that in parentheses, the x minus 2, or just put a big fraction bar, because it's talking about division. And that big bar says the same thing as parentheses. Number 4, 8 times a number decreased by 5. Well, 8 times a number is just 8x, and I'm going to decrease this amount by 5. So I just do minus 5. 6 more than 2 times a number is just like this first one up here, where we did the 9 less. Well, 6 more means I'm going to add 6. What am I adding 6 to? 2 times a number, which is 2x. So that's how we do the reading and writing expressions. Now, when we're going to evaluate expressions, I do expect you to show some work. And the work that I'm expecting you to do, okay, I'm going to give you the 2x minus 6. So right underneath that, I expect you to plug it in for the given values. Okay, so in this one right here, I will expect on your test, if I give you 2x minus 6, to see 2 times 7 minus 6, because x is equal to 7 in this problem. And then I expect you to evaluate this. That means come up with an answer. So you take this and type it into your calculator, and if you do, you end up with 8. Because 2 times 7 is 14, and then 14 take away 6 gives you 8. Okay, for number 7, I should expect to see 3 times negative 9 plus negative 8, because the value for y is negative 9. So then you type this into your calculator, 3 times negative 9 plus negative 8, and you should get negative 35. On number 8, I should see 4 times 7 plus negative 9. And again, you type this into the calculator and you should come up with 19. Number 9, we've got x minus 3y, so that's going to be 7 minus 3 times negative 9. You type this into the calculator and you come up with 34. Okay. Number 10, 8 plus 2y, so that's going to be 8 plus 2 times negative 9. So we plug that into the calculator and you come up with negative 10. Number 11, 7x minus 2y. So that's going to be 7 times 7 minus 2 times negative 9. You type that into the calculator and you get 67. So there's really no excuse for missing any of these unless you just can't type something into the calculator right. Okay. The next section is dealing with T-charts. Now, if I give you lines, I do expect to see work. If I do not give you lines, then you can work it using the patterns based on what we've learned so far. Okay, so in this first one, we got x plus 9. So I expect to see this negative 2 plus 9, and then negative 1 plus 9, and then 0 plus 9, and then you fill in your answers. Okay, so negative 2 plus 9 gives me 7, negative 9 gives me 8, 0 plus 9 gives me 9. What am I doing? I'm increasing by 1. So this will be 10 and this will be 11. Number 13, we have x minus 3. So again, I expect to see some work. Now the first thing I'm going to do in this one is I'm going to change that minus to a plus, the 3 to a negative, and we end up with negative 2 plus negative 3, negative 1 plus negative 3, 0 plus negative 3. So negative 2 plus negative 3 gives me negative 5. Negative 1 plus negative 3 gives me negative 4. 0 plus negative 3 gives me negative 3. So what am I doing? I'm increasing by 1. So this should be negative 2 and negative 1. Okay, so number 14, we've got 3x plus 2. So that's going to be 3 times negative 2 plus 2. 3 times negative 1 plus 2. 3 times 0 plus 2. So 3 times negative 2 gives me negative 6. Plus positive 2 gives me a negative 4. 3 times negative 1 gives me negative 3, plus positive 2 gives me a negative 1. 3 times 0 gives me 0, plus 2 gives me 2. What am I doing? I'm increasing by 3. So the next one should be 5 and then 8. Now on the last three here, 15, 16, and 17, you don't have to show me work on these. Okay, you can just use the patterns, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, so in this one right here, the first thing I would do is I would do that. Okay, and so I know I've got a negative 2. So we know this negative 2 is going to go as my y-intercept, which is my y value, and x is 0. And this negative 5 tells me I'm going to count by negative 5. So that means going down, I'm going to be going left 5. So from negative 2, I'm going to go to negative 7, and then to negative 12. Going back up, I've got to add 5. So I'll have 3 and then 8. Okay, now for 8x, now you got to pay attention. I switched my x value, so you got to be real careful. Well, what this says is negative 8 times whatever x is. So this first one is negative 8 times negative 5, which actually gives me positive 40. And then negative 8 times negative 4, which gives me positive 32. And then negative 8 times negative 3 gives me positive 24. So really, we're just doing our 8 times tables. So the next one would be 16, and the last one would be 8. Now number 17, again, make sure you pay attention to my values. Okay, so you don't have to show the work, but you might still want to just to be on the safe side. So this first one is going to say negative 2 times negative 7. Well, negative 2 times negative 7 we know is 14, and then I'm going to add 3. 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, then negative 2 times negative 5 gives me 10. 10 plus 3 gives me 13. Negative 2 times negative 3 gives me 6. 6 plus 3 gives me 9. So what I'm really doing here, even though this says I'm decreasing by 2, my values over here are increasing by 2, so I'm skipping 1. So here I'm decreasing by 4, really. So this 9, the next one becomes a 5, and then the last one a 1. Okay, so that is evaluating my T-charts. Okay, so the next one, we're doing the same thing, but we also have to carry it onto a graph. Okay, so in this one right here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my minus to a plus next to its opposite. Then I'm going to take my negative 2 and I'm going to plug it into my y-intercept spot. Okay, now this 2 says I'm going to count by 2. I'm going to increase by 2. So if I increase here by 2, I get 0. And then 2 more, I get 2. Going backwards, I get negative 4 and negative 6. And now we've got to make sure that we put these into the right spots. Okay, so we've got to graph it. Now what we need to remember is that the x values, the x means go left or right. Okay, because our x values are going to tell me right or left. Okay, my y values, which is this side, okay, it's going to tell me go up or down. Okay, so if it's positive, we go up. If it's negative, we go down. For the x, if it's negative, we go left. If it's positive, we go right. So this first point here says go left 2, down 6, and put a dot. So from the origin, I go left 2, down 6, put a dot. The next point says left 1, down 4. So left 1, down 4. Then the next one says right or left none. Anytime you have a 0 in the coordinate, that means that you're going to have a point on the axis. So that means right or left none, down 2. The next one says go right 1, go up or down none. The last one says go right 2, up 2. And then last but not least, we play connect the dots, extend out past above, and extend out past below. And that's how you do your graph. Now, just for some additional practice on some star type questions, okay, here is one over interest. Mr. Wilkins deposited $2,500 in a new account at his bank. The bank pays 6.5% interest compounded annually on this account. Mr. Wilkins makes no additional deposits or withdrawals. Which amount is closest to the balance of the account at the end of 2 years? Now, since we're dealing with compounded annually, that means I need the compound interest formula, which is A is equal to P parenthesis 1 plus R to the T. Okay? Now the A, we remember, stands for all of it, principal plus interest together. That's the kind of answer that I will get. Okay, so for this one, principal is $2,500. The interest rate is 6.5%, but I have to change that to a decimal first, so that's 0.065. And then my time, of course, is 2 years. Now, if you type this into the calculator, you will end up with a value that is 2835.56, and then some other numbers. All right, so that tells me that the balance, which is going to be all of it, principal plus interest, will be F as my answer choice. Now, if the question asked for what is the amount of interest earned on this one, then I would have to take the $2,835.56 and subtract out the original principal. And you would end up with an amount of $335.56. And that would be the amount of interest in this account, okay? Because we remember interest is the amount above what is originally in place. Okay, and then the last question. It says, which table contains only corresponding x and y values where the value of y is 3 more than the quotient of x and 2? So basically what we're looking for is, what is the expression? What goes here in this expression spot? Okay, so that's what we're looking for. So y is 3 more than the quotient of x and 2. So this goes back to this type of problem on the test. You have to translate it first before you can do it. Okay, so y is equal to, it says 3 more than, so that means I'm going to add 3 to something. Well, what am I adding 3 to? The quotient, or the answer to x divided by 2, because quotient is division. So this expression is x over 2 plus 3, written like that. So now what we do is we take each of these x values and we just plug it in and see which T-chart works. Okay, so y is equal to, okay, and we'll take this 7, we'll plug it in, 7 divided by 2 plus 3, you type this into the calculator, and 7 divided by 2 is 3.5, okay, plus 3 gives me 6.5. So I look at my T-charts, and I find there's only one T-chart that has 7 and 6.5. So then we should check another one. So y is equal to, okay, 10 divided by 2 plus 3. Well, 10 divided by 2 is 5, plus 3 gives me 8. Ah, there it is. And those two worked, so my answer must be G. Okay, so if you understand how to do all the questions that we just went over, then this test will be really, really simple. Because that's all this test is over. Okay, it should be one of the easiest tests that we have all year long. So study well, and good luck tomorrow. I'll talk to you later.